typically will do is the lateral, and the lateral is the only one that's gonna be, well, not the only one, but we start out at 72 inches for this. And we're gonna do a left lateral, we'll really never do a right, so it's always gonna be left. So I'm gonna have you turn and go ahead and face that wall for me, and get your shoulder as close as you can to the board. Perfect. This board's just gonna come up. So we could already have wrapped a shield around him, or we could, if we had a rolly shield, we could just bring it right in front of him. So I'm gonna center on him first, and then I'll center my Bucky, okay? So take a tiny step forward. There you go, that's it. So what we're looking for, guys, is not to be forward. So our spine is our back, so we're gonna be more posterior. A lot of people accidentally will center really anterior, but we're trying to get back here, more posterior, okay? Just gonna move you a tiny bit right there, okay? So we're trying to get C4, that's really our main centering point for basically any projection. And essentially I'm just gonna be halfway between where his ear is and where the shoulder is, okay? So it's wrong if you're this close to the shoulder or if you're up here by the ear. So you're trying to find that halfway mark.
Isn't C4 though like the Adam's apple? Isn't that kind of lower?
Yeah, I don't use the Adam's apple.
Okay.
I don't suggest using it as your mark. You can for the AP, that's
Okay.
okay.
But for the lateral, it's just between the ear and the shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This would be way too close to the shoulder. A lot of the times, this top line here for our centering, it almost is like skimming underneath the jaw.
Okay.
But I would just like find your midpoint between the ear and the shoulder and you'll be fine. So this is good. We want his chin to be basically in a normal position. We don't want him tucked. We also don't want him like lifting his head up at all. Now I'm gonna just collimate a tiny bit. Okay. So we do not need to have any of the face, but what we want to have is making sure we've got light in the back of the neck. Typically you'll also have some light here in the front, just depending on how skinny their neck is. And for Sal, we'll have light right in the front too. What we don't want, what you guys shouldn't have, is all of his facial features on there. So you shouldn't have the nose. You'll get some of the mandible, but we can really collimate this in. Now the top of his ear is right here, and that's where we want to get our light up to, is about the top of the ear, okay? And now I'm just going to make sure I'm centered. Pretty close. Okay, this is going to come down, don't move. Okay, now you're going to give breathing instructions. And you guys remember what the breathing instructions are for the lateral.
Suspended expiration?
You got it. So, usually what you want to do is instruct your patient, let them know, go ahead and take your big breath in, blow it out, relax your shoulders down, don't breathe, and that's when you'll run back, okay? If you tell them just to breathe in and breathe out, usually they won't do this here, unless you really tell them. You can also tell them to kind of reach down with their fingertips. But sometimes you get older people who don't understand it, and they start to go down this way. So yeah, they think they've got to touch their toes. Right there. Okay. And that's how you would take it. So you can mark in the front or back, just as long as you're in the light. Okay. So that's your lateral. Any questions on this one? Your shield is pretty straightforward. Just make sure you're at your 72 inches. The hardest part for most people starting out is like figuring out where to center this. Okay, so now we're gonna do the oblique. I'm gonna turn you towards the wall a little bit. How many degrees is our oblique?
45.
45, standard 45. Now the range for this, it's an AP axial oblique, so we can be anywhere between 15 to 20 degrees. Most techs are just gonna go 15, they won't go to 20.
So for comping, we could just do 15 then?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what I want you
What
guys
do we
to
usually like judge the angulation off of? Like how big the
They've got
person
a
is?
very
or-
long
Oh,
neck.
okay.
Yeah, you'll actually go steeper. This is the hardest part. Again, when you're first starting out, a lot of people want to center really anterior, but this is just soft tissue trachea crap. We want to center back here posterior, so take a little step forward. Good, right there. Now, they actually give us a range here for our SID. So you see how I'm not right at 72 inches? If I were to stay back here, you see how it moves up the central ray?
Yeah.
So you might be at 72 inches for someone who's taller, but they give us that range 60 to 72, so that way we can bring it in for if you have some, basically for height reasons. Okay? So you're not gonna worry like, am I in those 60 to 72? Just bring it in until you get where you should be centered. Okay. Just make sure. Roll this a little bit. There we go.
For shorter people, would we drop that lower
Right.
instead of coming super close to them?
Yeah, so you'll come in and you'll drop. Yep. So same thing, guys, we should be at C4, so you're just trying to find that nice midway point between the ear and the shoulder. And then I'm just going to center this.
So what if we get like a kid that we're doing this on and then you can't drop that further down because the table's on the way?
Yeah, so for this, we would want to move this, try to move it all the way down.
Oh, okay.
You can move it all the way down, and then you'll have to bring it in as close as possible.
Gotcha.
Now, a lot of x-ray techs will actually forget this SID, and you're gonna see a lot of them just be here at 40. But it's technically wrong, okay? It's technically wrong because we still have an OID, okay? So when you get to clinicals, you're just gonna do it how they want you to do it, and then you just, when you get back to testing, you gotta remember it's 60 to 72 inches. Okay, so the head should go in line with the body. Sometimes you do have to, there are some people where you do have to do this little turn, but when you guys go to comp, I want you to keep their head straight, okay? So when they move here, it shouldn't just be the shoulders and body and like keeping their head turned. Everything should be in one line essentially. Just gonna move you a little bit right there. So again, we really shouldn't have a ton of light on the face or anything. We should be able to clip that off. Once you guys get your collimation for the lateral, it should stay pretty similar for everything, okay? He'll be shielded. Let me just double check this. Let me mark. So, do you guys remember which side are we demonstrating? It might actually make more sense now that we're seeing it. We are demonstrating this side, okay? There we go. So just make sure you guys are more posterior. I'm gonna mark this side. You are gonna have a lot of techs who don't like to do that. They like to mark the downside. But if you do that, that is the right side of the body. Okay, so then you'd have to go get your right marker. I want you guys to mark, well no, that is the right side. This is the right side.
Yeah.
Okay, and this would be the left. Okay. Okay, so just stay like that. Lift your chin a tiny bit for me, perfect. And that's how you guys will collimate. This is just a suspended breathing. It might look really weird, like why do I have all this light here on the chest? But we have to get it. We're still getting all the way down to at least T1. That's what we're trying to get to. So we've got to have some light here. Okay, hold your breath, don't breathe. There you go. Okay, now go ahead and place your back against the board. And this will now come into 40 inches. But your same angulation is on. So technically, well, let me show you both. I don't know why I'm doing it yet. So technically you would do one side and then you'd have him turn and you'd do the other oblique, okay? But you guys, you can choose which one you want to do, if you want to do this one or the other one. Okay, now go ahead and put your back against the board.
And we're only gonna be doing the AP obliques then?
Yeah,
But they've ordered that in the hospital, you do both?
yes, yeah. So when it's ordered as a 5U, you'll absolutely have to do both, yeah. Because you've got to see the left, you got to see the right. Okay, just gonna move you a little bit. Go ahead and lift your chin, perfect. So angulation is still the same, we haven't moved it at all. And what I want you guys to look for when you go and do this collimation is it should almost look like a mask around the patient's like bottom half of their chin. It should look like it's wrapping up and around the ears, okay? And you do want them to be up a little bit. That way we're not superimposing C3 through T1. And this is gonna come down, stay right where you're at. There you go. And then just make sure you're marking it correctly. Stop Okay. And then we'll shield and then he'll just hold his breath, okay? Okay, stay just like that. Now we're gonna do the odontoid. Okay. So, I want you guys to move this from portrait to crosswise. We have to take the angle off of here, and this is gonna come up a little bit. Might be a little bit of light in your eyes. Okay, so this is the one, guys, that we're trying to get the occlusal plane in line with the occipital. And so you have to do a little bit of touching their face, okay? So I'm just gonna feel on the back of your head here. And usually what I like to do is I'll feel on the back of the head and I'll draw a line with my thumb, basically right on the top of their upper incisors, and I'll put my index finger here on the back of their head. If you got someone who has a larger head, it might be a little bit more difficult to do that, but I think it works. So you're trying to do this basically where you're putting this perpendicular to the board. There you go, that looks good. Stay right where you are and just drop your jaw open wide as you can get it. There you go, okay. This is just gonna come down a little bit. Good, say ah, and there you go. Okay, that's your odontoid. So the big thing is, what I don't want you guys to do is go, that looks good, and not do this thing here. You have to touch your patient and be able to line up the occipital with the upper incisors, okay? If you don't, you're gonna clip it or you're gonna put something over. So every tech has a way they like to do it. That's how I like to do it. And then you guys will kind of figure out how you like to do it when you get out to clinicals. But I want you to do some kind of moving of the head and getting them there. Okay, that's it.